Hey, it's Mr. Thomas here to help you with the independent work for the day, which is the lesson 5 and 6 practice problems to go with the recent Desmos activities we've done, or actually, I think one of these we haven't done yet. But all right, so let's just go ahead and go through it. Start with problem 1. It says the amount of apples this year decreased by 15% compared to last year's amount. Okay, so like a harvest, I guess. Select a diagram that represents this situation. So I look at the two diagrams and I look at B first. And I see that with B, the top bar represents last year's amount, which would be the 100%. I refer to these as the whole amount or the original amount in my class. And then I see the bar underneath has that same length of 100%, but then an additional like 15% increment tacked on. This to me looks more like a percent increase amount. And so when I look at the A diagram, I see that the 15% on that bottom bar is like being taken away from the length that would create the same 100% as the bar above it. That to me looks like a decrease, which matches the question. So I'm gonna go with that one. Okay, and so um, so looking at the second one, it's like the exact same thing, just worded differently, right? It says the amount of pears this year is 85% of last year's amount. Well, 85% of last year's amount is exactly the same as saying it decreased by 15%, right? If you have, no, I didn't mean to do that. If you have 100% of something and you take away 15%, well, that's the same as having 85% of something left. And so it should be the exact same diagram as the last question, right? With the 15% reduction. So I'm going to click the A one again. I'm going to double check my work just on question 1 just to make sure I'm not messing this up because they're both the same. Let's see. This one says the amount of apples this year decreased by 15% compared to last year. Okay. And this one says the amount of pears this year is 85% of last year's. Yeah, they're the same thing, just two different ways of wording the exact same question. So they both get the same answer. All right. So problem 3, it says a pair of designer sneakers was purchased for $120. Since the purchase, the price of the sneakers has increased by 15%. Okay, so we have this original price of the sneakers, right? Let me get my drawing tool. So we can call that the original amount. We can call that the whole amount in this case. We can call it the 100%, whatever you want to call it. But that's going to be the $120, right? And we want to increase that by 15%. But that's the same as just saying you have 115% of something, right? 100% plus 15%. And so we just want to find 115% of 120. Well, I'm going to convert that 115% to a decimal, right, by moving that decimal point 2 spaces over. So 115% is the same as 1.15. And then wherever I see of when I'm doing math, I just think of that as multiply, right? 115% of 120, that's 1.15 times 120. So I'm going to put a multiplication dot there. And that's how I'm going to get my answer. 1.15 times kind of looks like a plus. I got to make that more of a dot. So 1.15 times 120. So I'll just do that in Google over here. I still have the answer from the other assignment I just did a minute ago. So let's see here. 1.15, let's see here. I do this times 120, oops, equals, will that work? I don't know if it's going to represent. No, it didn't recognize that dot that I put as a multiplication. Okay, so what if I just use the letter X? Will it do that? Yeah, there we go. So if you increase $120 by 15%, you get 138. So I think that's our answer. The new price on the shoes is 138. It already says dollars here, so we don't have to put a dollar symbol or anything like that. I'll clear all that stuff and move on to the next one. Oh. The next one says, a dog weighs 20% more than it did 3 months ago. It weighs 36 pounds now. How much did the dog weigh 3 months ago? So this one we have to be a little bit careful on, because an incorrect thing to do in this question would be to figure out 20% of 36 and try to subtract it off, because it all depends on where is this 20% coming from. It's not 20% of 36 we're talking about. We're talking about 20% of the dog's original weight is what it increased by, and we don't know that original weight. So this is what's going on in this question. The original, or the whole, or the number that is 100% in this case, that's all unknown. We don't know that right now. But we do know the new weight, right? The new weight, sometimes we refer to this as the part, just depending on which terminology you feel like using. That's 36 pounds. And so if we're thinking about this as a proportional relationship, we got to move it back this way, which tells us we're going to need to divide, right? Or if you like think of it in terms of formulas like we do in our class, this 36 represents a part of what the dog used to weigh. It's bigger than the whole. The whole in this case is smaller because the dog used to weigh less, but it's still a part. It's still something that's being compared to the original. That's what we mean when we say part. And so it's being increased by 20%, right? That's what the question's telling us. So that's the same as having 120% of the original. And 120%, that's equal to 1.2. I'm just moving that decimal point over. So if you're thinking of doing the question this way down here, your k is 1.2. You just wanted to take 36 and divide by 1.2 to get that original amount. If you're thinking of it the way I do it in my class, then what we've got here is a situation where we're trying to find the whole, or the original. And that equals the part, or the new, right? Whole and original are like the same thing, and part and new are the same thing, divided by the percent. Whichever way you like to think about it, we need to do 36 divided by 1.2 to get that dog's original weight. And so let's see what that is. Looks like the dog used to weigh 30 pounds. And I'm not going to write pounds or anything like that because it already says that in here and thing. All right, question 5. It says, oh, I'm just realizing that it's like showing the answers down here at the bottom. Let me read that. Jessica estimated that her family used 30% more water this month compared to last month. They used 12,000 gallons of water last month. All right, so this is a case where the question feels very similar to the last one, but in this case, that $12,000 gallons, I mean, actually is the original or whole amount. And the reason I know that is because I'm thinking about the way the question's worded. It says 30% more water this month compared to last month, right? So we're making a comparison to last month. And the number that you're making a comparison against is always the whole or the original amount. And so that's what they've given us, right? They've given us last month's amount. So all I got to do is just increase that number by 30%, and I'll know how much water they use this month. So I want to increase by 30%. That's the same as having 130% of what the original amount is. And 130%, if you move that decimal point over 2 spaces to the left, that's the same as 1.3. And so if I have a whole or original amount and I want to like represent a part of it with a percent, then I'm going to multiply, right? Or in other words, in my class, what we would say is part equals percent times whole. Or if you're thinking about it in terms of proportional relationships, then what you've got here is your original amount is 12,000 and your new amount is unknown, but you've got a K of 1.3. And so that's a really bad 3. And so you're just going to multiply by your K to go that way, right? Either way, we're doing, what is it? 12,000 times 1.3 is what we need to do here. 12,000 times 1.3 equals, I could probably do that one in my head, but I'm getting tired. I'm going to use the old Google. 12,000 times 1.3, what do we got? Nope, that didn't work. I guess I got to put space. 12,000. What? Why'd you? 12,000. It's being annoying. Okay, I guess I can't space there. All right, I'm going to do it up here. 12,000 times 1.3 equals 15,600. So I'm going to put 15,600 here in the box, and I'm not going to type gallons or anything like that because it's already in there. All right, let's do another one. It says a bakery used 25% less butter this month than last month. All right, so sounds like it's going to be a 25% reduction question. The bakery used 240 kilograms of butter this month. All right, so they gave me the new amount, right? Like the comparison here is from last month to this month. And the amount they gave me is this month. So that's the new amount in this case, or the part, right? New and part are the same thing. And so we're looking for a whole or original amount in this one. And so if you like to think of it this way, our whole or our original, that's unknown in this case. But we have been given a part or a new amount, which is the 240. And so we're going to have to divide to go back. Or if you like to think of it in terms of formulas, then we're going to be using this one. The whole equals the part divided by the percent. And so we know that they're trying to reduce by 25%, or like the bakery used 25% less. So reduce 25%. That's the same as having 75%, right? And 75% equals 0.75. It's supposed to be an equal sign right here. And so our K in this case that you're going to want to divide by is 0.75, or our percent that we're going to use up here to divide by is 0.75. And our part is the 240. So we're doing 240 divided by 0.75. That's the bottom line. Let's see what it equals. And we get 320, it looks like. So I think the bakery used 320 kilograms of butter last month. We don't need to put kilograms of butter or anything like that. It's already in the thing. So, all right, I think we just got one more. Each week, the price of oranges at the farmer's market increases by 20%. The price of oranges this week is $4.50. What was the price last week? All right, so they said it's increasing from week to week, right? And they've given us this week, and they want us to compare it to last week. And so they've given us a new amount, right? If it increases from week to week, then this week compared to last week is a new amount. The 20% is coming from the original amount, which would be last week. So this one's gonna work out the same as the last one, right? I'm gonna do this one real quick because I feel like it's similar. Where the original or whole is unknown. Let's see here. The percent is 120%, right? Because we're increasing something by 20%, so we're going to multiply by 120%. And 120% equals 1.2. And so anytime you've got a question where the original number or the whole amount is unknown, you're going to divide, right? That's what that formula says. That's what, putting it in the table and looking at it as x's and y's shows you. It's division. So let's do 450 divided by 1.2. And if you're still unsure when it comes to like, am I supposed to multiply or divide? Think about whether your answer is supposed to come out bigger or smaller, right? Like we're trying to figure out the price last week and it says it's increasing each week. So that means our answer should be smaller. The price should have been lower last week. And so if you do one of these questions and you read the question, you're like, oh, my answer should be smaller, and it comes out bigger, then you probably like did the wrong operation. If you multiplied, you should have divided. If you divided, you should have multiplied, right? And so I know that my answer should turn out less than 450. $4.50 divided by, it's 1.2, right? I'm getting tired. I think it's 1.2. Equals $3.75. Did I do that right? Yep. So $3.75. All right, I think that's it. See ya.